Most recent coronavirus relief package has some specific relief for airline workers, and the government agreed to pay the salaries for some employees whose livelihoods were at risk from the world's pause on international air travel.
But one hidden feature might jeopardize all of that. In a letter to Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, the international president of the Association of Flight Attendants, Sara Nelson, wrote that the provision allowing the Treasury to take airline ownership stakes in exchange for those employee payroll funds made it a poison pill that will put more jobs at stake. Instead, Sara calls the proposal a con and a switcheroo. Joining us now is Sara Nelson. She is via Skype for more on all of this. Sara, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right, just break down for our audience what provisions were in the bill, what is it that you're concerned about, and what is going on right now?
Well, look, we have a problem, and everyone knows that we have a problem, that the unemployment numbers are skyrocketing, that more and more people are going to lose their job, that people are not going to have what they need to take care of themselves during this healthcare crisis. So we're having a financial crisis collide with the healthcare crisis. What we put forward from labor and fought for really hard, and the Democrats made it possible for us to fight for this by rejecting McConnell's plan, was to get a payroll grant from the government, $25 billion, that would be designated just to pay people's paychecks. What was important about that was that never before have we had Congress direct airlines exactly how they have to spend the money. That's what this provision provides. And so they have to spend that on pay and keep people connected to their health care and out of the unemployment lines. That's the only thing it can be spent on. And it is the most simple solution. So we have a big problem right now. We have a big problem where a lot of people are hurting. We're trying to get help to people as quickly as possible, because we know that if people can't help themselves, that also destroys our economy and makes it harder for people to get help during this healthcare crisis. In fact, what it will do is it will mean that more people will die. So we gave a very simple solution here to pass through to the paychecks, and that is what was enacted. And now it is upon the Treasury Secretary to implement this. What Senator Toomey fought for in the 11th hour was the ability to attach these warrants to the grants, which essentially make them not grants. That's where I'm saying it is a con, because a grant of money directly to the workers, designated for the workers, to give us financial stability at this time, to give us the ability to take care of the sick and vulnerable, is at risk, because the Treasury Secretary has the ability and has been saying that he is going to use this instrument against the airlines, which will make it too onerous to take. And if that happens, the only option for the airlines is to file for bankruptcy, which will mean mass amounts of job layoffs, the ability to break union contracts. I've been there before, Crystal. I've been there before. We went through a 38-month-long bankruptcy with United Airlines after 9/11. The consultants in that bankruptcy billed $25 million just for lunches alone. The executives walked away with millions of dollars in bonuses while they broke union contracts. So the people that Steve Mnuchin has called in to help him with this application process with the airlines are investment bankers from Wall Street. And he is sending the signal that these are the people who every single day bet on people failing on Wall Street. They short the position. And the idea behind that is that when there is a crisis, when there is something going on where people are hurting, where businesses are failing, these are people who bet against that. That's who he has in his office right now. And he's putting the airlines through an incredibly onerous application process in order to make this provision not work. They fought and fought and fought and fought us during the process of putting this bill together. And we won. But now what they're trying to do is make it not work. And so all these jobs are in jeopardy.
Wow.
So, Sara, I want to make sure people understand this, the actual machinery of how this is. What is the specific provision that is making it too onerous upon the airlines to take? Because the provision was added, but now they're adding something else. Just explain that a little bit so people can understand.
Sure. So there are two different provisions of this bill. There's the payroll grant money that can only go to keeping people on the job and paying their paychecks. And then there's also the loans that airlines can get in order to cover the rest of their operating costs while the flights are pulled down there during this time. The loans have the ability for the government to have an equity stake in the airlines, and that is totally appropriate. That is normal, and that would be about a 3% equity stake. and they should have something to hold the airlines accountable to pay back that money. The payroll grants are supposed to be money that is passed through directly to the workers. And what the Republicans attached to this bill at the last minute was the ability for the Treasury Secretary to attach warrants to the grants, which means it turns the grants into a loan. They're no longer a grant. There's never been a grant in U.S. history that has equity stake attached to it or the ability to get someone to pay that money back. A grant is money that you give, just like you give it to students. You're investing in that student's ability to give back to the society with their learning. You're not expecting them to pay that back. Just like we want to invest in the workers who are part of the front lines of this vital industry, the airline industry, and a template for other industries as well. So attaching those grants and telling the airlines that they're going to do that, but asking the airlines then to say, what are you willing to give, which is what they're doing in the application process, while saying that they're going to put this onerous provision on them, is making the airlines have to put forward applications that are going to be where they are guessing what they need to do in order for the secretary to give them these loans. What's really happening, what he's really setting up here, is he's saying he's going to do individual negotiations with each airline. That is going to drag this out and make this process not work. And the airlines are running out of money so fast that before this application process is over, he's using this provision to slow down the application process and get the money to the people. And so before this application process is over, they are going to have to make the decision to file for bankruptcy because they're running out of money so fast. So he's using this as a tool to make the process not work and to not get the money to the workers and to not stabilize people. There are people in this administration who are counting on the chaos taking more control. There are other good people in the administration. This is not everyone. There are people with hearts and people who want to make this work. But Steve Mnuchin and the people that he's calling in to work on this make money every day off of chaos and people hurting. And that is the concern here. And that looks like what they are trying to do.
And so, Sarah, I think it's really important that people understand the grant that you're talking about was supposed to be a grant, really is meant to go directly to workers. I mean, that's very different from the loans that are propping up the airlines to make sure they can survive, and that it's appropriate, as you say, for the government to take an equity stake with those loans as they have done with other industries. This was money that was just meant to keep workers in their jobs. And so tell us a little bit about those workers. How many are there? What are their lives like? What are they telling you? What are their concerns right now?
Yeah, you know, Crystal, this is really difficult because the other thing that this is doing is 2 million people work in aviation, from the people who push the wheelchairs in the airports to the pilots who fly the planes. And this CARES Act was supposed to give them certainty at this time. It was supposed to be because everyone is in a really uncertain position. And we have people who are dying, who have been on the front lines of this coronavirus since the end of December. We don't even know all the numbers because we haven't been able to get the tests. But flight attendants are dying. Paul Frischkorn is in the picture right behind me. He is the first flight attendant who died from the state of Pennsylvania, where Senator Toomey is from, who did the maneuver to try to torpedo this provision. But we are dealing with this healthcare crisis, and people have so much uncertainty. They have family members who are dying, friends who are dying, and this financial package was supposed to give us a level of stability right now so that we can focus on the sick and vulnerable and take care of them. And it is very clear. Donald Trump, prove me wrong, but the fact that you will not enact the Defense Production Act and the fact that you are allowing your Treasury Secretary to do this right now and keep people in limbo tells me that you don't care about these lives. And you're not in the business of saving them, and you're not in the business of helping people. And I'm just going to call you out right now on that. Prove us wrong. Stop Secretary Mnuchin from getting in the way of getting the paychecks to the people who are on the front lines right now, fighting for our country, providing essential service to our communities right now. And you are getting in the way of certainty for them while we are hurting and grieving the loss of our friends and the other people who are in ICU right now fighting this virus because they were on the front lines from the beginning.
Well, we'll certainly be elevating your story, Sara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sara, thank you.
Highlighting it to us.
Thank you so much for your passion and your fight on this. Your members are so lucky to have you out there fighting for them. And please keep us updated on this story. We want to know what's going on. Thank you, Sara.
Appreciate it.
Crystal and Sagar, may I just say, if I could ask people to go to Flying with Sara, we've got an action there. Lift this story up, because if we can get this right, we can help every other industry too.
There you go.
People will do it at Flying with Sara on Twitter. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
We'll have more Rising for you right after this.